Excuse me, folks, the council is still in closed session, but they should be finishing up in just a moment, so they'll be up here momentarily.
So we're back in open session. If I could have Councillors Ackland and Beauregard move that council rise and reconvene from closed session at 6:45 p.m. with report 4.1 staff reports. A, that staff follow the direction provided in closed session in accordance with the Municipal Act, and B, that staff follow the direction provided in closed session in accordance with the Municipal Act. Questions? All those in favor? That's carried. At this time, we'll open with our national anthem, our land acknowledgement, and then we'll have a moment's silence for the passing of former Mayor Saraceno. So for those that can rise, please rise.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of its command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendourok, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
And please rise for a moment's silence. Thank you. We have two delegations tonight, and both delegations are delegating on items 14.1 and 14.2. And I just want to remind everybody that you have 10 minutes. And our first delegation is Betty Conk. Come forward to the podium. Okay, just state your name and address and the little red button on the speaker.
Betty Conk, 831 Highway 3 East here in Port Colborne. Thank you for having me this evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and residents. I am the co-chair of the Port Colborne Health Coalition, and if you will just indulge me for half a minute here, I want to take you back about 18 months ago when this whole health issue came to fore, and our group came to council and asked council to do a survey, which you did. And it was great. And I think the results were astounding from the number of responses that you got. The second thing that we did, we came to council and we asked council to put together a health advisory committee, which you did do, and thank you so much. And that health advisory committee has been helpful in getting us to where we are this evening. And so from those thoughts, we haven't been wrong. So I do have a letter that was put together at the request of our membership as a response to the action plan. And this letter has been approved by our board, and I'm pretty sure that most of our members are in agreement with it. So without further ado, here we go. The mandate of our coalition is and always has been to advocate and/or fight for 24/7 access to health care in our community. Our community needs access to 24/7 care, which is non-existent currently. Unlike our northern neighbors who enjoy that access 365 days a year. We here in Port Colborne don't have that equity of health care, which, by the way, is one of the pillars of Niagara Health mandate, to provide equity of health care for all. The action plan developed by the city is a step in the right direction to get the community the health care that in some cases we don't have access to unless we leave the community and travel, sometimes to care much further away and outside of the region. Transportation is a large issue in the city, not to mention getting outside of the city to access health care by some of our most vulnerable citizens. We know that the city is aware of this, and it's a situation that needs to be resolved should our councillors vote to go ahead with the action plan. Being able to access 24/7 care here in the community can help those that would normally simply not even attempt to have their health issue seen to because they have no way to leave the municipality or they are not rostered with a doctor in the city. Having attended all of the healthcare advisory meetings as co-chair of the Port Colborne Health Coalition, I do understand that the city has made many inroads in creating contacts with those that provide allied services, which we only have on a limited basis here. We recognize that the city has done vast amounts of research to get to the point of presenting the action plan to the community, with the hope that we, the citizens, will embrace the idea of a direction that will put us healthcare-wise on a more level playing field with other municipalities and get us more than we currently have, which is basically no healthcare after 8 p.m. Niagara Health is basically throwing us to the wolves when they decided to close the doors of the UCC unit at its current location. When that happens, not only will access to after-hours care disappear, but the diagnostics that go with the UCC unit will go too. Our local doctors depend on the diagnostics to help treat their patients, who will be forced to leave the community to access diagnostics elsewhere, delaying treatment. Having access to 24/7 care isn't just about going to the UCC unit when we have a health issue. It is also about those diagnostics that will go with getting the help that we need in perhaps some of our darkest hours. There have been lots of comments from citizens about this plan, not all of them accurate, and certainly biased towards putting a healthcare hub, new build, anywhere but at the current hospital site. This is definitely a conversation for another time. Wherever this healthcare hub goes, the Port Colborne Health Coalition will continue to advocate for 24/7 access to care. We do understand the province is no longer funding this type of care. However, with partnerships and other funding, this type of care can be had. The St. Thomas model seems to be one that is working well in that community, with the addition of medical residents that can take on after-hours care should it be needed by a patient. The Renfrew model is also another option that can be considered with their layered after-hours care model. All of this to say that our group and hopefully the city will continue to advocate for 24/7 care for their residents. We are not alone in this provincially, especially those of us who are deemed to be rural communities. Do we deserve the same level of care as our urban neighbors? Yes, of course we do. There just needs to be the political will to get us there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Betty, appreciate that. Councillors, questions? Questions, anyone?
Okay.
Good, thank you. Our next speaker is Gary Gavrlik.
Gary Gavrlik, 21 Woodside Drive, Port Colborne, and I am a board member at large. Mayor Steele, council members, staff, and fellow residents, 14 hours. That's a full workday in pain before a doctor sees you. According to the Canadian Institute of Health Information, last year, 1.5 million Canadians, 1 in 10 ER patients, waited more than 14 hours in the emergency room. That's up 28% since 2018. This is what a system stretched past its limits look like now. Everyone here is aware or have personally experienced extended wait times at the 3 Niagara Hospital emergency rooms. ER wait times significantly increased when, in 2022, Niagara Health reduced the Port Colborne and Fort Erie's UCC operating hours from 24/7 to 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Niagara Health staffing issues have also created intermittent closures. There are better ways to provide access to health care and after-hours care. When Niagara Health closes the Port Colborne site in 2028, we can expect those wait times to dramatically increase, as the residents of Port Colborne and Fort Erie will have no other option but to travel by any means they can to one of the other 3 Niagara Health sites for treatment unless we have our own treatment options here in Port Colborne. For many in our community who do not have access to their own transportation, this will add to the difficulties that they already endure accessing their healthcare needs. I hope to give you some insight into our current healthcare based on my firsthand patient experiences, having being recently admitted to the St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Welland hospitals. I also attended the Port Colborne Hospital or site for therapy. May 1st, I went to the St. Catharines site for a complete right knee replacement. The surgery itself was successful, and normally this surgery requires a 2-night stay. However, I suffered a reaction to the epidural, which extended my stay to 6 days before being discharged. 2 days later, I returned to the St. Catharines Emergency Department because of the kidney stone attack, number 19. I was forced to sit upright in a wheelchair in the waiting room for over 13 hours in severe pain from both the stone and my recent knee surgery before being seen by a doctor, despite my wife Barbara's repeated attempts to have me seen sooner. There is a sign in the waiting room stating that if your pain becomes unmanageable, to inform the receptionist. The size of the stone was too large to pass, so an emergency procedure was done to limit the movement of the stone until it could be broken up by laser 10 days later. Because of the hospital operating room scheduling, the procedure would be done at the Niagara Falls site. Because of the threat of infection, my hospital stay this time was 5 days after being discharged. As luck would have it, the very next day after being discharged from the St. Catharines site, I suffered an uncontrollable nosebleed as a result of being on blood thinners. This time we went to the Welland ER. I was immediately put in a bed in the ER. My time in the ER was approximately 4 hours before a type of nasal packing was used to stop the bleeding. I was told to return in 2 days if the bleeding completely stopped to have the packing removed. I returned in 2 days and had to experience a wait time of 9 hours before it was removed. The removal process took less than a minute. I must say that despite what I went through, my patient experience with all the staff and doctors was excellent. However, it is very evident that their stress levels and their resources are stretched to the limit. Having spent all this time in our area hospitals, I engaged with staff about the state of the healthcare system in general and about our UCC closure. As to the state of our healthcare system, their comments were that the system is broken and underfunded by our provincial government. There appears to be a deliberate denial by the Ford government to understand or to look at the specific needs here in Niagara. The government has no idea as to how geography and weather events play into our ability to access health care. Many are frustrated because of the government's mindset of whatever is good for the GEGA should also be good everywhere else in Ontario. As for our UCC closure, there is an undeniable understanding of how the closure will impact our community and how it will increase the demands on the 3 remaining hospitals sites. We all have an idea of what we need or want. I would still love to have a fully functional hospital, but I learned a long time ago that you can't always have what you want. You can sit back, be complacent, and let what we have disappear in 2028. or you can try to keep what we have and improve on it. It is for this reason I support the efforts of the city staff and the Citizens Healthcare Advisory Committee for the creation of the Community Health and Wellness Action Plan. Why should we support this plan? Because no one else has come to the table with an alternative business plan that is as concise and robust as the action plan is. A plan that will continue to develop as needed. Pending council's approval, we are looking forward to receiving exceptional care in our new health hub that will have diagnostics, lab services, and much more available. The superior care we will have access to will be better than what we now receive in our UCC. Without this plan, we will have nothing in 2028. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Gary. Questions from council?
Oh, come on, guys, you let me off 2 weeks again. Am I that good?
They know your knee's probably sore.
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you, Gary. Yep. Next up is our mayor's report. The city of Port Colborne is mourning the passing of former Mayor Bob Saraceno, a dedicated community leader and a longtime advocate for our city. Bob devoted decades of his life to serving Port Colborne, including nearly 2 decades as mayor. Even after his time in elected office, his passion for the community never faded. He continued to be an active and familiar presence, supporting local organizations, causes, and initiatives that mattered deeply to him. His commitment to Port Colborne and the people who call our city home leaves a lasting legacy. He will be remembered for his dedication, passion, and many contributions to Port Colborne. The city's flags are lowered to half-mast in recognition of Bob's passing and his years of service to the city. Our deepest condolences go to Bob's family, friends, and all those who had the privilege of knowing him. He will be deeply missed. Pack a blanket, gather the family, and join us Wednesday, August 12th at H.H. Noel Lakeview Park for a free outdoor movie, Under the Stars. Admission is free with a non-perishable food or cash donation to Port Cares, with the movie beginning at dusk. This week's feature film, starting at dusk, approximately 8 p.m., is Hook, sponsored by Young's Insurance. Wendy's will be selling lemonade for just $2 each, available for purchase from 6:30 p.m. until the movie begins. $1 from every lemonade sold will be donated to Port Cares, and they ask that it be cash only. Bring your blanket, bring the family, and make a night of it at Moonlight Flicks. Looking to try fishing for the first time? The Learn to Fish program is coming back to Sugarloaf Marina, brought to you by the Ontario government. This free program is a fun way for new anglers to learn fishing basics through hands-on learning. Participants will enjoy a 1-hour practical teaching session, followed by an hour of supervised hands-on fishing with all required equipment provided. Wednesday, August 12th and Thursday, August 13th, there's a morning session from 10 to noon, and then the afternoon session is from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So whether you're picking up a fishing rod for the first time or learning a new skill, come join us at Sugarloaf Marina and give fishing a try. For more information or to register, we ask you to visit www.ontario.ca/page/learn-swim. On behalf of myself and the Port Colborne City Council, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the many volunteers, community members, organizations, businesses, staff, and partners who helped make this year's Canal Days Marine Heritage Festival such a tremendous success. Canal Days is one of the events that truly showcases the spirit of Port Colborne. It brings our community together, welcomes thousands of visitors to our city, and celebrates our rich marine heritage and everything that makes Port Colborne such a special place. To our incredible volunteers, thank you for giving your time, energy, and enthusiasm throughout the weekend. Your dedication is the heart of this festival. To our residents and community members, thank you for welcoming visitors, supporting our local businesses, participating in the festivities, and once again showing the pride and hospitality that Port Colborne is known for. It takes an entire community to make an event of this size possible, and we are incredibly grateful to everyone who played a part. Thank you for making Canal Days another weekend to remember, and we look forward to welcoming everyone back next year at our 49th. This concludes my report. Questions, council? Councillor Badaway, regional report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to follow your lead and offer a few comments about Mr. Bob Saraceno. As many of you know and have served Bob, myself included, throughout many years. I recall Bob as a child when I was watching him as mayor sit on council with my father. And of course, many other activities that he participated in throughout the years as a volunteer. And if I were to describe Mr. Mayor Bob in one word, it would be a fighter. Bob was a fighter. He was never afraid to stand up for Port Colborne and its residents. He had strong convictions. Many of those convictions were passed on to members of council throughout the years in this chamber, at the regional council chamber, and simply as a citizen of this great community. Bob spoke his mind, and behind it was a deep love for his community. As a former mayor of Port Colborne and regional councillor, Bob dedicated many, many years of his life to public service. His commitment to our city didn't end when he left elected office. We all recognize that. He continued to follow the issues, share his views, and advocate for what he believed was best for this community. Bob understood how public service at the municipal level is personal. Every decision impacts our neighbors, our friends, our family, and in the overall community. The decisions you make affect everyone. Everyone that calls Port Colborne home. Whether you agreed with him on every issue or not. And we all had our times, whether it be here on this horseshoe or with regional council. We all have times of disagreement. And Bob was in the thick of that on many occasions. But there was never any doubt where his heart was. And that was with the city of Port Colborne. Bob's contribution is part of our city's story and will be remembered for many years to come. My sincere condolences go to Amy, Bob's extended family, his friends, his neighbors, and all those that knew him very, very well. He will be remembered. And as I say often, when someone loses a loved one, let's not forget one thing. Memories are forever. They can never take that away from us. And Bob will be in a lot of our memories. Mr. Mayor, I also wanted to take this opportunity to extend my appreciation and my congratulations to all the volunteers, city staff, yourself, members of council, Mr. Mayor. I do know how tough it is to host thousands upon thousands of people during our Canal Day celebration. Not only are you celebrating the Welland Canal, you're celebrating our community's personality, who we are, who Niagara is, that Port Colborne contributes to, and the overall Great Lakes and everything attached to it. Well done. Once again, the 48th year, I believe the 49th year next year, close to 50, which, by the way, Mr. Saraceno had a lot to do with to bring that event to fruition. And I would hope that when we do celebrate our 50th year, we don't forget that. But well done to all of you, especially as the mayor said, to all the volunteers, to city staff. You don't always see it. They're out there, sometimes till 3 or 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. Good job. And to all those that came out and participated, thank you as well. You made the event that much more special. Mr. Mayor, we look forward to next year. And to everyone, hopefully we see the feet in the ground next year again as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions to the regional councillor? Thanks, Vance. So on the consent agenda, Councillor Bruno has lifted items 13.3A, D, and E. Councillor Bodnar, 13.3D and F. Councillor Bagu, 13.3G. And Councillor Aquilina, 13.4E, I, J, and K. Any other items need to be lifted? If I could have Councilors Bagu and Bruno move, the council hereby approves the listed consent items on the August 11th, 2026 special council agenda. That the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. All those in favor? That's carried. So the next two items, items 14.1 and 14.2, although we'll deal them separately as far as the vote goes, Renee's going to come up and give us a presentation, and it will go through actually both those items on your agenda. Renee?
Good evening, Mayor Steele, members of council, Regional Councillor Badaway, members of the community, and the Port Colborne Health Coalition who have joined us. Tonight's presentation brings together three connected pieces of work: the final phase of engagement on the Community Health and Wellness Action Plan, the Healthcare Data Dashboard developed with Esri Canada, and the proposed next step of exploring a community health hub through the development of a comprehensive business case. The presentation follows a simple progression. First, we listened and used community feedback to shape the action plan. Second, we are building the tools to measure local needs and monitor progress. Third, we are moving towards action with the goal of having integrated healthcare space on both sides of the canal as a sustainable solution to our existing healthcare and transportation challenges. The first section presents the results of Phase 4 engagement conducted from May to July 2026. This was the community's opportunity to review the draft plan and tell us whether we had accurately captured their priorities. This work has been built in stages. The first three phases established the evidence and priorities through community engagement, the Healthcare Advisory Committee, and KPMG's independent analysis. Phase 4 validated and refined the draft plan through further community feedback. Subject to Council's decision tonight, we will move into Phase 5 this September, which will involve implementation with a high-level work plan, data and progress monitoring, and regular reporting through to 2030. The engagement was supported by a broad communications campaign. Information was shared through, It was me. Yeah. There I am. The vision is connected care close to home for every stage of life. The plan is intentionally a living document because things like community needs, available partners, as well as the health system will continue to evolve over time. The 5 guiding principles give us a consistent framework for making future decisions: trusted, quality, timely care, people-centered services, fair access, and long-term sustainability. We created several opportunities for residents to participate, recognizing that not everyone is comfortable completing an online survey. People could respond online or on paper, attend open houses, or view an online session, participate through focus groups and committees, or connect with us at the farmers market. We also reached out directly through healthcare, social service, and community partner networks. The engagement was supported by a broad communications campaign. Information was shared through city web pages and social channels, local radio, paid advertising, community posters, partner networks, and a postcard with the survey QR code was delivered to every Port Colborne household to create a consistent opportunity to participate. In total, 513 surveys were completed, including 153 paper responses and 454 respondents identified as full-time Port Colborne residents. Staff also reviewed 356 open-ended survey comments and heard directly from residents through the open houses, focus groups, committees, priority population outreach, and community events. The value is found not only in numbers of responses, but also in the range of ways people were able to take part. The results show strong support for the plan's direction. More than 93% agreed that the guiding principles reflected community needs, and every area of focus received majority support. Medical imaging and lab services received the highest support, while advanced primary care, which includes access to after-hours and urgent care, was the clear first-ranked priority. At the same time, 60%, the confidence result tells us residents now want to see the plan translated into visible action and measurable progress. Support was broad across all 8 areas of focus, ranging from 79.5% to 95.7%. Medical imaging and lab services, community-based care, primary care, and mental health all received support above 93%. Even the lowest result remained a clear majority, confirming that equity, inclusion, and culturally safe care must remain part of the overall plan. The open-ended comments add important context to these percentages. Urgent care, emergency care, and the future of the hospital site remained the most frequently raised issue. Residents also emphasized implementation, accountability, and feasibility. Because one comment could identify several concerns, these themes overlap. They show where the community expects the city to be especially clear and persistent when it comes to advocacy efforts. Overall, residents support the direction, but they want to know what happens first, who is responsible, and how progress will be measured. They also want to know how the city will continue to advocate for local access to primary, urgent, and emergency care. While residents acknowledge the significant healthcare challenges facing Port Colborne, they also expressed optimism that the action plan provides a practical, evidence-informed roadmap for addressing local priorities. Staff have made revisions to strengthen clarity and emphasis. The more detailed qualitative feedback will also guide the development of the high-level work plan, future advocacy, and the measures used during implementation. Please see Appendix A for the full engagement results, which include representative comments, and the raw survey report with all of the open-ended comments will also be made available on the website. Phase 4 of healthcare engagement gives Council a strong community mandate to advance the action plan. Staff will continue working with the Healthcare Advisory Committee to monitor progress, identify emerging needs, and recommend adjustments. The ESRI partnership is the next part of that commitment, giving the city a stronger local evidence base for planning, advocacy, and transparent reporting. This concludes the engagement results section. I would be pleased to answer any questions before we move into the healthcare data dashboard.
Thanks, Renee. Councillors, questions? Questions yet? Seeing none, proceed.
The second part of tonight's presentation focuses on how we will keep the action plan evidence-informed and measurable. The healthcare data dashboard is designed to turn complex health, demographic, and equity data into information that Council, partners, and the public can understand and use. ESRI Canada is a national leader in geographic information systems and spatial analysis. Its tools are widely used to show how health outcomes and access are influenced by factors such as income, housing, transportation, and age. This partnership gives Port Colborne access to expertise already being used by health organizations and municipalities across the country. I am pleased to introduce Brian Mosley, Health Solutions Lead with ESRI Canada. Brian is a health geographer with 15 years of Canadian public health experience and leads national work connecting geospatial data with healthcare planning and policy. Brian will now provide a live demonstration of the dashboard and some of the local insights it can reveal. Thank you for joining us, Brian. Over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Renee. It's great to be back here virtually presenting again. So as Renee said, I'm going to go over the dashboard or the collection of health geographic data that I've been putting together with Renee and her team. So what I'm going to be showing you is a collection of data related to health infrastructure in Port Colborne and Niagara more broadly, health sort of risk and demographic vulnerabilities for needs for healthcare, and some of the chronic conditions as they exist right now in the community. And all of this is being done with the lens of as your community moves forward with the health hub or makes other healthcare decisions for the community, it'll be evidence informed and evidence based. You'll have this information to justify decisions and be confident that you're making the right choice. So what I'm going to do tonight really is just take you through the data that's been collected and that I hope will form the foundation for some of these tough but exciting decisions that are coming for Port Colborne. So this is the dashboard right now, or the story map as I call it. And the first one, the first layer here, which I'll show you, which is really a work in progress, because it's a living layer which will be added to as we get more information, but it shows the allied healthcare services and different healthcare services as they exist in Port Colborne right now. And I've talked with Renee, and some need to be added, but it gives you a good idea of where things like pharmacies, mental health care and addiction services are, different lab facilities. So as you're building the hub, it gives you a good sense of where services currently exist, where they could be co-located, and where there's potentially gaps in the community. The next layer is really interesting and pertinent to the conversation. This is a layer which is from the Canadian Community Health Survey, which has been modeled to StatsCan dissemination areas, showing where people have no regular healthcare provider. So the map you're looking at is visualized by percentage. So the darker colors are showing in Niagara, where there's a higher percentage of the population that don't have a healthcare provider, which is obviously an important first point of contact when it comes to healthcare. But it just gives you an idea that across the region, there's varying access to family healthcare providers, which is being worked on by the province and yourselves, but gives you an idea of what it looks like. But one of the relationships, or one of the interesting patterns when it comes to attachment to a primary care physician that I've been finding with working with healthcare organizations is that attachment doesn't always mean access. So what you're looking at on the map right now, which is incredibly informative, is this is where people choose a hospital or emergency care as their first point of contact for a minor problem. So these are sort of healthcare needs which would be best served by a family physician or a walk-in clinic, but people are choosing to go to a hospital, ER, or urgent care for their healthcare needs. And it's interesting because this doesn't mirror people's attachment to healthcare, showing that even if you are attached to a doctor, oftentimes when it comes to things like 24-hour care or different extenuating circumstances, being attached to a doctor doesn't mean that you necessarily are always able to go to them. And we can see that, that 24-hour care is something that's required in all areas. Now, some of the other really interesting data, this is a layer, again, from the Canadian Community Health Survey for Port Colborne. So again, this is a little more relevant potentially to Port Colborne and the municipality rather than a healthcare decision. This is how people feel about their health in the city. Again, it's by dissemination area. And you can see it's been broken down into an easy to understand sort of 1 through 5, excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. And this is how people feel about their healthcare and their physical health within the city. So really interesting to keep an eye on that metric as things move forward and different healthcare decisions are made. A lot of the data I've been encouraging, Renee and the team to look at are things called different vulnerability socioeconomic indices. So this is an index called the Material Vulnerability, put out by Public Health Ontario. And essentially it looks at a number of different factors such as education levels, median household income, sector of the labor force that people look in. And it sort of assesses how vulnerable a population or an area is to economic downturns or being able to afford different necessities, but interestingly enough is also strongly correlated with health risk factors and people having different needs. So an interesting layer to look at when understanding where there could be more needs in the community. And again, I just put this one up here. There's a number of them that Renee and the team will have access to, but another layer from Public Health Ontario called Residential Instability as part of the Ontario Marginalization Index, looking at things like where people rent versus own, different makeups of a household, and different vulnerabilities that could lead to negative health outcomes, or where people are more vulnerable and need to be focused on for healthcare. And then the last few slides I'll go through, or the last three things in the pieces of data in the dashboard, are some of the chronic conditions as they exist. So this data, I'll emphasize, is it's from a company called Environics Analytics, and it's based off the Canadian Community Health Survey, but it's modeled data, so it's not necessarily directly provided from Niagara Health. It's meant to show sort of the overall patterns in the community. But right now, you can see here in Port Colborne, this is looking at asthma and COPD, so respiratory related conditions as they exist. And again, we're looking at the percentage of the population in the different neighborhoods across the city that are dealing with different respiratory conditions. There's also data on things like diabetes. So these are all chronic conditions that people deal with. And again, emphasize that when people have chronic conditions, comorbidities, they often need, healthcare on a more regular basis and can have the need for that more urgent healthcare. Again, we're looking at the percentage of the population that's dealing with diabetes. And then the last one is the percentage of the population with a cardiovascular condition. So this could be previously had a heart attack or dealing with high cholesterol, have had a stroke, anything related to cardiac care. But again, we're looking at the percentage of the population in the neighborhoods where people have that pre-existing condition requiring cardiac care. So I know that's a lot of data to throw at once, but the idea is that all that data gives a good holistic picture, and there is more data to make decisions on where hubs should be put, where care should be put, if people have adequate access and travel time. All these things can be modeled with the data that Renee and team are collecting, and we're excited to help in any way we can with the process, and it's great to see the work being done in Port Colborne. So with that, I'll stop sharing and hand it back to you, Renee.
Thank you, Brian. I'll give Jess a second just to get back to the presentation.
While that's happening, Renee, Councillor Bruno has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if Brian's still there.
I'm still here.
Okay, so what I want to understand here is, have you been dealing with the Provincial Ministry of Health on similar data collection to help other communities make their case for funding? And if you have, I'm just wondering if you could rank where we are at that. I'm kind of looking at maybe something that you weren't involved with, but since January 25, we've been building and building and building a case with demographics. I'd like to think it's the language the province and the ministry understand. So I don't know if you're in a position, Brian, to talk about how we fare with other plans and what your consideration is about our proposal, data gathering, and the case we're building. I'm just trying to get a comparator of what wins at the province, to be blunt.
Yeah, fair enough. So I do work with a number of OHTs in other areas on similar type of work. Um, and, and as overall, being able to show this data, have a good understanding of where your population has needs, where the unattached are, the services that are in your area, it becomes a little more easy to quantify or make the case to the province for funding. I can't comment on the province's thinking. I will say that Renee and the team are some of the more advanced, groups that I've worked with in terms of doing this mapping and really making a strong case for funding in the community. But yeah, I couldn't comment on the specifics of the thinking of the province. But you're among a handful of groups that are doing this type of work in the province. But I think it's reap some benefits in terms of moving their communities forward. I'm in Kingston, Ontario, and their OHT in the city are one of the ones that have sort of led a lot of this work that I've sort of based some of my thinking off of. And yeah, Renee's sort of seen that work, and you guys are doing a great job.
Counselor?
I'm sorry I can't be more specific.
No, that's fine.
Working at the software company, I don't have the specific view into the province's thinking, but I do think this is pointing you in the right direction.
Renee, I may be getting ahead of your presentation, but I don't know what response you've had and how much data you've shared with the people you're talking to at the ministry to help all this come to fruition. And, maybe that's stealing your thunder at the end, but I'm just wondering where we're at and what the reception's been.
Well, when we met with the Health Minister Jones and her team at Roma in January, I will say that it was very helpful and effective to have a government relations booklet that didn't just talk about things that our community wants. We were able to demonstrate the data and actually show that these are the things that our community needs. And she really tuned into a few of the data pieces. She pointed at a couple and had a few comments to make to our team. So I could tell that she was reviewing the package. And just so you know, they do receive the packages in advance. We don't expect them to read that much information in 15 minutes. I have not had an opportunity to meet with her again since. However, we will be meeting with her and her team at AMO next week. And we're very excited to present the latest data and the action plan to her within this conversation.
Great, thanks, Councillor. Okay, go ahead, Renee.
Okay. So the long-term value is a shared local evidence base. It will help the city and its partners understand needs, plan service locations, advocate with clear evidence, and measure whether conditions improve over time. It also supports the commitment in the action plan to transparent reporting and ongoing two-way dialogue with residents. Jess, can you change slides? My clicker, it died. Oh, there we go. So I'll say thank you, Brian. I know you're on the call. We would be pleased to take any other questions at this time before we move on to the next part of the conversation.
Further questions?
Yep, still here.
Great, thanks, Renee. Continue.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
The final section moves from priorities and evidence into implementation. A community health hub is one practical model that could advance several community priorities in the action plan at the same time. The idea is supported by several independent streams of work. Residents have asked for accessible, coordinated care on both sides of the canal. Local providers have identified a shortage of modern clinic space. Municipal site visits and provider discussions showed that recruitment and patient care benefits of purpose-built facilities. The KPMG analysis recommended exploring team-based care and an integrated hub. And the city's legal review confirmed that municipalities can play a legitimate role in supporting this type of local healthcare infrastructure. A community health hub is more than a medical office building. It is intentionally designed to bring complementary providers and services together, improve communication among those providers, and make the patient experience easier to navigate. The exact model is always shaped by local needs and partnerships. Bridges Community Health Center is a familiar local example of integrated community-based care. These two examples demonstrate that health hubs can operate under different ownership and funding models. Bridges Community Health Center delivers provincially funded healthcare services from a privately owned building, while the Cowan Community Health Hub is municipally owned and brings together private sector healthcare providers and community-based services under one roof. The key is to ensure that the space is accessible, clinically appropriate, flexible to account for the future growth of services and providers, and designed to support coordination among those services. The planned closure of the Port Colborne Urgent Care at the end of 2028 creates a very real planning deadline. Advanced primary care, after hours and urgent care, diagnostics, chronic disease support, rehabilitation, mental health, and visiting specialists all require appropriate clinical space. The goal here is to complement services that are available across South Niagara, not duplicate them, while protecting local access on both sides of the Welland Canal. A health hub would support several action plan priorities in one singular investment. Modern infrastructure could provide future space for advanced team-based primary care, urgent care, and diagnostic services. Co-location of providers and services supports referrals and makes follow-up simpler for patients. A fully accessible facility could also reduce navigation and travel barriers for seniors, residents with disabilities, and other underserved populations. Adaptable clinical space could also strengthen provider recruitment, support new partnerships, and respond to changing needs over time. An east side facility would complement services already located on the west side, support community growth, and create economic development opportunities. Interest in the community health hub concept has continued to grow, and the city has received high-level interest from two private sector organizations. Boggio's Family of Pharmacies has expressed interest in a multi-campus model, while Elite Developments has proposed a new Class A medical facility as part of its larger development near the Highway 140, Snyder Road, Main Street East. The business case would evaluate them alongside the city's service, governance, and financial requirements. A preferred timeline for a community health hub, should one proceed, would correspond with the closure of the UCC by the end of 2028. This map illustrates the existing concentration of healthcare services on the west side and two potential east side locations that staff have identified with partners. It helps show why a multi-campus or complementary facility model would make sense for a community that is divided by the Welland Canal. Staff are recommending the development of a comprehensive business case to answer several important questions, including the community's service needs, potential partners, capital and operating costs, available federal and provincial capital, and operational funding opportunities. The completed business case would return to council after the municipal election for consideration and a future decision. Growing interest from healthcare providers and funding partners makes this the right time for the city to determine whether this model is achievable, financially sustainable, and capable of meeting the community's long-term healthcare needs. We have a real opportunity to turn today's challenges into lasting change, and the momentum is already building. Since the draft action plan launched in May, South Niagara healthcare partners, including Bridges Community Health Center and the Welland McMaster Family Health Team, received $4.75 million in provincial funding to expand team-based primary care for nearly 9,000 residents across Port Colborne, Fort Erie, and Wainfleet. A new family doctor will be joining the Niagara South Family Medicine team this fall, and that official announcement is coming very soon. A new physician team will be moving into the old Dollarama space inside the Sobeys Plaza before the end of this year. This location will eventually host 4 family doctors in partnership with the Northland Pharmacy. There have also been staff-level meetings with a cardiologist group who are expanding into Port Colborne and are looking for immediate clinic space. We have also seen support from local industry, Young Buns Lauer has submitted a letter of support for the action plan and the city's continued advocacy for access to 24/7 healthcare, which reflects their hours of operation. And they have offered their partnership for a future health hub should that opportunity arise. Thank you to Council, the Healthcare Advisory Committee, Councillors Bodner and Aquilina, our healthcare and community partners, the Port Colborne Health Coalition, and all of our residents who shared their experiences that shaped this work. Your voices have brought us to this point, and your continued partnership will help us build a healthier future for Port Colborne.
Thank you, Renee. Councillors, questions? Councillor Bodnar.
I have comments. I'll wait till after the questions.
Sure.
That's good.
Councillor Baggy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Renee. Your presentations are always welcome. On your Appendix B, you have a diagram of the Colborne Community Health Hub. Are we looking at a model like that place? Because just the more I looked up on their website, and it's a for-profit health hub.
So we have to be careful when we say for-profit. It is not provincially funded like Bridges Community Health Center. Community health centers are funded by the province because they service a very specific clientele within a community that really needs it. Paris, Ontario ended up being in a position that they didn't have enough primary care and they didn't have anywhere to house their various healthcare services. And so in 2019, the municipality sold a public utility that they owned, and they had $13 million to invest into something. They decided that healthcare was their top priority. They built that facility, and they currently have a primary care health team that takes up 18,000 square feet of their second floor. Their entire facility, and you'll see in that case study, it really is a mix of OHIP covered services, family doctors, and then you have other services like chiropractic, massage, different types of rehabilitation that are indeed private sector and you have to pay out of pocket for. So that is quite normal for municipally supported health hubs because that's essentially why they're built. It's to house the services that the community needs. And with the municipality owning the facility, they have more of a say of what types of providers and services can be offered within that facility. I will say that when we went and we toured it, while we were really impressed, they did share with us that even after building that facility, they weren't able to get after hours through their primary care team that was there. So they looked to a nurse practitioner-led after-hours clinic that comes in 3 times a week to provide care to their attached and unattached patients within the municipality. So that was their solution.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and that nurse practitioner charges $50 for 15 minutes. So x-rays up to $1,400. I think the make it or break it for me, myself as a councillor, well, the decision won't be made till next council. But if it came to this council, if you didn't have after hours, it's not going to fly. Even the Colin one, everything closes at 5 o'clock. So, did you nurse practitioner, but.
For that to be a non in the Cowan Health Hub that are open till 11 o'clock at night. So the facility itself and doctors that are closed, that they did their matters, that their team able to model
Further questions?
The question I have is that, you know, we have doctors in a couple clinics now. You build one of these hubs, you want to have critical mass, you want to have the pharmacy, all that to pay the to pay the operating costs and to pay towards the building costs. So would it be fair to say that, the ideal situation or the likely situation may be that whether it's an elite or a private developer, that there may have to be some participation depending on the uptake of doctors, diagnostics, pharmacy, in the real world, tenants, to help carry this cost. So could this evolve into a situation where the hub starts at a certain size and we as a municipality, you mentioned it, the difference with the city-owned facility, this may be a joint partnership, it could be all city, it could be all private developer. I'm just talking about building the building at this point, not housing it. And all of that is going to take time, and it may not be full at the beginning. Doctors may not want to move over. New doctors may want to go there. And so you could really have a real mishmash of things for a while. Is that something that happens out there? Is that how it evolves? Is that something likely we can expect? We likely expect, maybe this is Mr. Bowles too, but potentially city funding evolving out, continual city funding, those kind of things, or is that coming out later?
Renee?
Through you, Mayor, that's exactly why staff are asking for direction today to build a comprehensive business case. We've had all of those discussions, and of course, there's also some concerns. So we would want to fish out all those details, speak to more partners, do that deep research, and bring back multiple options, scenarios in November. But I will say that although we have been warned that that can sometimes happen, I do not believe that that's what's going to be the case. I'm already in a position where I've asked for how much would it cost if we had to add another floor or two situation right now, because we have so much interest in this health hub. And I'm really more in a position where I'm trying to make sure that the health hub space is going to be prioritized for those services that are going to absolutely need clinic space in 2028. You can put massage therapists and chiropractors anywhere in a city. What goes in this health hub 100% needs to be advanced primary care that's offering after-hours services and urgent care on-call coverage, as well as the diagnostic.
Providers, reviewing the research, hearing from subject matter experts, and working through some difficult questions. This action plan is not based on a single survey or a predetermined solution. It reflects months of thoughtful, evidence-based work. On behalf of the committee, I want to thank city staff and everyone who supported the research, engagement, data analysis, and preparation of these reports. Staff brought patience, professionalism, and transparency to a complex file, while ensuring the committee remained informed and meaningfully involved. I also want to recognize Chair Sydney McDowell, Vice Chair Dr. Philip McGarry, and every committee member for the time and expertise they contributed. Most importantly, thank you to the residents who completed surveys, attended meetings, joined focus groups, and shared their personal experiences. Thank you, Gary, for doing that tonight. Your participation gave this work both direction and credibility. Approving the action plan is not the end of the process. It is a commitment to implementation, regular reporting, and accountability. I am proud of the foundation that has been built and look forward to seeing this work move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. With regards to this report, comments or questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What stands out to me most about this work is how clearly the community's voice has been carried through every single stage of the process. Residents did not simply ask for more health care, they asked for care that is timely, connected, accessible, and sustainable, and for services that recognize the realities faced by seniors, people without transportation, residents with disabilities, and families trying to navigate a complicated system. Those priorities are now clearly reflected in the Community Health and Wellness Action Plan. The Health Advisory Committee also benefited greatly from the many people and organizations that shared their experiences with us. Healthcare professionals, community agencies, local partners, and residents with lived experience, such as Gary, have helped us better understand both the gaps and the opportunities. On behalf of the committee, I want to thank them along with the staff team that created so many different ways for people to participate and ensure that their feedback was carefully considered. Tonight's presentation also demonstrates a responsible path forward. The action plan establishes the direction. The ESRI dashboard will help us measure changing needs and progress, and the proposed business case will allow council to decide whether a community health hub is a viable long-term investment. It's an ambitious approach, but it is also evidence-based and accountable. I echo Councillor Bodner's thank yous to the Chair McDowell and Vice Chair Dr. McGarry and our fellow committee members on the team, city staff, and every resident who contributed. This work gives Port Colborne a stronger voice and a clearer foundation for future advocacy and partnership. Our responsibility now is to keep listening, report openly, and continue moving these priorities into action. And if I could just add something. One, I would like to address both Betty and Gary, and thank you for speaking today, and I agree with everything that you said. Sunday night, I had to bring my husband to the hospital for something that was 200% not anything that wasn't due to the health system being broken and failing him. He's been transported home while we've been in council here. But while we were sitting in the ER, luckily, we got a 3-wall room as opposed to sitting at the nurse's station for the 3 days that we were there. But just the little area that I was sitting in, and as the doctors were going around or the nurses were going around and talking to the patients, there was 5 of us from Port Colborne. So the system's broken. We know the system's broken. We know Niagara Health doesn't have the money to keep Fort Erie and Port Colborne going. And so I think it's so important for the community to understand how important the work that Renee has done with this plan, so that we have something in place that's going to meet the needs for all of our residents. Because if we just sit back and wait for the hospital to close and we do nothing, we're left with nothing. So I'm fully supportive of this process.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bruno.
Thanks. I think Councillor Bodner and Aquilina really said it all. I think I wanted to also come back to members of the public, but more so ask for support going forward. So, 6 months ago, we might not have been a community, and we won that fight, and Port Colborne's still Port Colborne. This particular issue, if you're not all aware, $1 million was put aside. We spent $400,000 to date, and I just was told. So there's a bigger road to hoe here, but for all of you, thanks for the support, and I hope you'll support the next council in this mission. There's people here tonight who I've seen come, maybe not 360 degrees, but I think we need to be united on this, and maybe not everybody's going to get what they want. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be up to us. There's not just some white knight out there going to rescue us. We've got to rescue ourselves. And so I just hope that going forward for the next council, whomever that may be, that there's support to stand behind this and we move forward with this in a united fashion, because I really believe with the talent that we have here in Renee and the staff that we can make a winning case. And I think we've done it, as has been said, the professional way with integrity. And I'm just so glad that we brought people along in this process. And really, this is more the community's project, I think, than it is council's, because if we didn't have your support doing this to put $1 million aside and spend what we're spending on demographics and a really hard business case, I think it could have fractured us. And if we're fractured, nothing is going to happen. And we'll be sitting here in 2028 with no hospital. We wouldn't have had no plan, and we could just complain about the government not doing anything. But together, I really do think we can win this thing. So I just want to thank all members of the public and the committee, especially the ones that have read thousands of pages of this stuff going back before January 1st, 2025. So I just wanted to add my thank you to the public. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor, further comments or questions on 14.1? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. And the next item is 14.2, moved by Councillors Bodnar and Aquilina, that the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer Report 2026-116 be received, and that Council direct staff to develop a comprehensive business case for Port Colborne Community Health Hub, including community governance options, financial analysis, partnership opportunities, site considerations, and capital funding opportunities. That Council direct staff to seek partnerships and funding opportunities to support a community health hub. That staff report back to Council following the 2026 municipal election with the completed business case and recommendations for Council's consideration. Questions or comments on this one? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item 14.3 is the expansion of the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area to include vacant lot in F Street 2026-124, moved by Councillors Danch and Bruno. The Planning and Development Department Report 2026-124 be received, that the expansion of the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area to include a vacant lot on F Street, as shown in Appendix A, outlined in red, attached here to be approved. Questions? Councillor Bruno.
Yes, Mayor, I just brought it forward as a thank you to Bram and everybody involved in this and Council when we deferred this to get a look at what that might be. I'm fully supportive of the extension of that, and I think it blends in with some of the work that's been done at the corner of King and Neff, and it could round that out. So well done to staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? Councillor Danch.
Just a comment.
Microphone.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I live 200 feet away from there. Be nice to see something on that property. 6 units, I don't know how he's gonna fit that. That lot's not 40 feet wide. So the conceptual drawing that he has there, I'm sure it's not gonna be anything like that, but I really don't think 6 units will fit there. You can't put 6 cars side by side on that lot. So I just a consideration down the road maybe. As far as a CIP, yeah, go ahead. I mean, if it puts something on that vacant lot, I've been watching people dump stuff on that property, the grass growing 2-3 feet high. So any improvement there would be welcome for sure.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Item 14.5 is information and status update report for proposed site-specific zoning bylaw amendment 434 and 484 Barrack Road, file D14-03-26, 2026-122. Just to remind everybody, Councillor Beauregard hasn't declared a conflict on this item. If I could have Councillors Elliott and Hoyle move that Planning and Development Department Report 2026-122 be received. Kelly, did you want to give us an update of this?
Sure thing, through the mayor. So this report really is highlighting where we're at in the process with this specific Planning Act application. If you will recall, we had a statutory public meeting back in July, and since that time we have provided a return of comments package to the applicant, and we anticipate that the applicant will be providing a resubmission that addresses the comments. At this point in the process, we are not making a recommendation one way or another, as there are still some additional items that we need clarification from the applicant on, and some outstanding comments from agencies. So that's kind of the gist of the report, really. It's more information update to you, and we're going to continue to work on processing this application.
Thanks, Kelly. Questions, Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. To Ms. Martel, thank you very much for giving this a decent scrub and making sure the developer dotted all the I's and crossed the T's before he brought it back. There's members of the public here from the area. Thank you for notifying them, although it wasn't a requirement under the Act, I understand. What I'd like to know is, in talking to the developer and what you would have to do to review that, can you give us some kind of an idea when this might come back to council?
Kelly?
Through the mayor, at this stage, the onus is on the applicant to make a resubmission. I can't crystal ball when they will make a resubmission, but given where we're at in the process and what the timelines are and any circulation that we would have to do back to agencies when we get a resubmission, I would anticipate that the earliest we might be able to see something is probably early next year, like early 2027.
Councillor?
And are you in the department, or Mr. Long, or anyone still pursuing the province with respect to access off of Highway 58?
Through the mayor, I might want to defer to Mr. Long on this, but I will say that internally with the planning department, we have done some outreach to the MTO, as well as some outreach to transportation consultants to understand what it might take to address the stretch of Highway 58 there. But I would defer to Mr. Long on anything further.
Mr. Long?
Through you, Your Worship, city staff, including myself, our planning staff, as well as the Office of the Mayor and CAO, have had a few conversations with the Office of the Minister of Transportation about this. Those conversations continue, and we'll keep council advised. The ministry and the minister's office have been advised of the sense of urgency, the timelines to provide feedback, as well as the development opportunity for more residential, which is what the province have been saying.
Councillor? Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Bodnar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bruno touched on it, but I think that Highway 58 access is a make or break for this. Dumping all that traffic on to a road that is maybe not made for that, I think is very problematic. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the ministry to, whatever, whenever. But I think without that going forward, this is going to have a tough go. Okay? So that's more comment than question, but that's.
Thanks, Councillor. So this is to receive. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor? That's carried. Item 14.6 is sale of surplus city property to the neighbors, Maple Street, 2026-97. If I could have Councilors Bruno and Danch move the Planning and Development Report 2026-97 be received. The council approve entering into the agreements of purchase of sale attached here to as Appendix D, F, H, J, L, and N with owners at 2, 10, 14, 18, 26, and 34 Maple Street. That the lands legally described on Plan 59R-18555, Appendix B, and the corresponding bylaws be brought forward, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign any and all documentation respecting the sale of the above-mentioned lands. Questions? Councilor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Mr. Cotton. With respect to the unresolved properties that haven't come forward tonight, what can we tell the residents, or have they been told, when they might anticipate their properties coming forward?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Bruno and Councilor Bruno and Council, we will be working with those owners to bring those forward at the next available opportunity that fits with their schedule as well.
And secondly, I know Councilor Begu's been involved in this now, and I was wondering too if the current and future severances, will the residences be getting a breakdown of those costs attributable that's billed back to them, in particular legal fees, or how will that come forward to them? Will it come from the city with an invoice? Will it be communicated to their legal counsel? How does that work?
Through you, Mayor, to Council, that'll be coming through their legal representative. We have our legal side, they have their legal side. So our legal costs are covered through they're paying for our legal costs. That'll all be broken down when they do the sale itself.
So if I could, so they have to go, they won't just see an invoice, they'll have to go back to their lawyer to find the breakdown?
Well, they would be working with their lawyer on, through you, Mayor, to Council, they'll be working with their lawyer on the sale, so that breakdown should be part of anything that they're doing with their lawyer as in the agreement of purchase and sale.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further questions? Comments? All in favor? That's carried. Item 14.7 is requested to designate Heritage Report Port Colborne War Memorial H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park 2026-117, moved by Councilors Bodner and Hoyle. The Planning and Development Department Report 2026-117 be received. The Council directs staff to issue a notice of intention to designate the Port Colborne War Memorial at H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, RSO 1990. Councilor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm fully supportive of this. It makes a lot of sense. Can you just remind me here, who initiated this? Was it the city that did it, or did it come from the Heritage Committee, or?
Madam Museum will come forward and let us know. Steph, welcome.
Thank you, public, council, staff. This was wonderfully a collaborative opportunity between planning and the Heritage Committee that is now a subcommittee of the Museum Heritage and Board, led by our councillor Beauregard. So one of the items on the work plan for the Heritage Committee for 2026 was to have his designation. The archivist did a lot of primary research working in Ottawa to find the information available to support the planning's designation, and we're really excited as it's actually 100th anniversary of the cenotaph in November of 2026. So I'm really pleased to bring this forward to council for your consideration.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now that I have you here, so I selfishly pulled this because there's also a, for lack of a better word, cenotaph in Centennial Park that has the names of all the enlisted people from Humberson Township that served in the different wars. And And I was just wondering whether I'd put a plug in for that one and how would I go about doing it? Don't want to take up the time for this, but now that I know the procedure, do I just contact you to start it off, or?
Well, through the mayor to Council Brodner, I'm happy to say that we will be supporting the recognition of all the cenotaphs because we were able to receive some funding. Our public programmer, Sloan McDowell, with our board chair, Arlene Lassard, they both submitted a grant to the Seniors Community Grant WeeStreem. So we were successful. We found out about that in June, just the end of Seniors Month. And the name of the project is called Veterans Voices Heritage Programs for Seniors Engagement. So it will include a commemoration of our cenotaphs. It will be having engagement opportunities with all of our veterans, as well as a speaker series at the archives to share our information that we did learn about the memorials that came into Canada. And the other thing that we are going to do is we are going to support with a little bit of oral history for anyone who is really interested in sharing their story, not just the veterans, but some of the families. So we've been able to hire a program coordinator. Stephanie McDowell has joined us and started working last week.
Perfect.
Oh, I should tell you, it was $23,000 grant. So it was fully funded.
Thank you. Further questions on this one? All those in favor? That's carried. 2026, item 14.8, 2026 mid-year financial reporting and strategic plan progress update 2026-93. Moved by Councilors Bagu and Beauregard that Financial Services Department report 2026-93 be received. That the recommended to and from the city's capital closeout account reserves capital and related projects, including the recommended project transfers and combinations as outlined in Appendix A of Financial Services Department Report 2026-93 be approved. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few questions. On the increased housing options in the report, it says that the city was eligible for up to $4.3 million from the Housing Accelerated Fund to support the delivery of 371 new housing. Has anything become of that, or is it just announced that we were eligible to apply for it?
Through the mayor to the councillors, so that's our Housing Accelerator Fund program. It is a 3-year program. Mr. Long and I have been in contact with CMHC over the past year and a half at regular intervals. Our first reporting year, we exceeded the number of units they projected for us, and we were released the next tranche of, like, it comes in $1 million tranches. We will have our next reporting cycle due this December. I have not looked at the numbers yet for this year, but I am going to be working with Anthony Rotundo and IT to pull the data to see where we're at kind of for our mid-year permits. But at this stage, we have our meeting with CMHC on Thursday, actually, and we could probably report on more progress at the next council meeting in September. I don't know if you had anything further to add.
That's perfect.
So we're actively working on it and making progress, to answer your question in a short way.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other one was on page 57, was about the combining some of the projects. And staff wants to combine quite a few projects in order to, I guess, make it easier for them, for bookwork and stuff like that. But I have a problem with that because there's some outstanding items like 2024 that council approved at a budget meeting. Like, we got to keep track of those things to be transparent to the residents. I don't like combining to do something else, example, like the security. Like, we're going to put 3 years into one. So next year when the mayor presents his budget, is that going to say we still have something outstanding for security? because we just tied it in with IT. It doesn't make sense as a counselor, like when I look at the budget book and come back, I would like to approve the mayor's budget, but when there's something in there that's not transparent, it's really hard for me to support it when I know it's not, all the information is in there, Mr. Mayor. Like, we still have outstanding items, and it's not being recorded as for council or for the public to see. Just be more transparent, that's all I'm asking.
Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, from staff's perspective, if we want to remove the words and combinations from the recommendation and not combine the projects, that's fine. I would like us to tread lightly on not being transparent, because I don't think that's anybody's intent with respect. I think when council gets into the detail and review those, what we have is we have an annualized contribution for surveillance, and the operating budget, you'll have an annual line, you'll spend that budget, and it comes up every single year. This annual line in the capital budget for surveillance is going into a pot that's accumulating to do a larger project. So I just wanted to point out to council, it's not that we're doing surveillance, like there's like 4 separate surveillance projects. The concept was the funds were being pooled over a period of time to do all the buildings at once in one RFP. But if we want to keep one as 24, 25, 26, and then just expense it each to the different projects, that's fine too. I just, as if you're keeping score sheet of where somebody is, it's not because IT and Public Works didn't get a project done from 2024. It's because they were saving up the funds over 3 years to be able to do the project. You're trying to create a pool, one mass. There are a couple in here that, like, I've had a look here, and I think cemeteries, one was for area and one was for monuments. I'd agree with you on that one. That one probably maybe we should keep separate because they are for different items. But I think they had the same contractor coming in to do the work at the same time. So they're just trying to simplify paying the bill in that. So it was just about simplifying getting the final RFP and that out. But if for all intents and purposes at this point in time, I've already recommended to the clerk, given her some wording, and I'd recommend to you, council, if you want to put on the floor and council wants to adjust, we can just remove and combinations. And, as we go into the next budget cycle, maybe we can add some more information about which ones we're doing on that to create greater understanding of when we're accumulating dollars to do a larger project versus when each one's individual. Said another way, like, for example, when you're putting funds away for like vehicles, each of those vehicles is listed and you wouldn't combine those projects. But these ones, like for example, when you look at the detail, Lock 8 park improvements, it was over 2 years we were putting funds aside for the same project. They weren't separate projects. So right now they're being counted as 2 separate projects, but it was always one project. It's just when the accountants set it up, they set it up as 2. And somebody said, they're the same project, so why don't we set them up as one project? And that's all that was. But we can come back in the next budget and maybe adjust this for clarity. Leave it for now.
Counselor?
Yeah, I misspoke to say the word transparent. I just meant more transparent. I know we've done a great job in that. I would get all the building.
Good recovery, Counselor.
Good recovery. And I do remember when we were changing the windows in the city hall over a 3-year period. So each year in the budget over the 3 years, it stated what that budget was for. And it makes it so much easier as a counselor to read it and understand it. When I got a 700-page document, like I don't have four weeks to read it. And I can't speed read too much anymore. So, I do. I'd be interested to hear the clerk's word.
Yeah. So, Counselor, I'm going to go to you to put an amendment on the floor to move the 2 words and combinations. Councilor Beauregard, would you second that? Yeah. Okay. Questions on the amendment? All in favor? That's carried. So back to the motion, and I'll reread it, that the recommended to and from the city's capital closeout account reserves capital and related projects, including the recommended project transfers as outlined in Appendix A of Financial Services Department Report 2026-93 be approved. Further questions? All in favor? It's carried. Oh, you have a question? Oh, okay. Thought the clerk was going to get mad at me. Okay, so we have, those are the reports tonight. Now we're going on to correspondence that was lifted. So I'm going to divide this in two, council. Item 14.9 is Municipality of Trent Lakes request for provincial action on the accuracy of municipal voters lists. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm directing this to Charlotte because I just wanted to know if this situation is affecting Port Colborne for elections.
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your question, Councillor Aquilina. Through our discussions with Election Ontario, we have been advised that non-resident elector counts were initially lower than expected due to province-wide data matching and verification processes. Elections Ontario has since completed additional reviews over the months of May, June, and July, and updates, and has confirmed that Port Colborne's non-resident elector numbers have increased significantly and are now generally consistent with the levels reported in 2022. Based on this information, we do not have the same concerns that were raised in the correspondence from this particular municipality, and we are satisfied that Elections Ontario continues to monitor and maintain the accuracy of the voters list. I think I can speak on behalf of the Deputy Clerk and myself. We've had zero complaints with Elections Ontario thus far. They are fantastic to work with, and our representative has been super communicative with us the entire process so far.
Councillor?
Great to know, and I'm glad that we're not dealing with the same issue. So that was just my concern.
Great, thank you, Councillor. So I'm going to have you, Councillor Aquilina, and Councillor Beauregard move that this correspondence be received. Further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Next, so next three items, Councillor Aquilina has pulled 1410, 1411, and 1412, all from the town of Wasaga Beach. And she's asking for us to support these as opposed to just receiving. So if I could have Councillors Aquilina and Beauregard move those three in block. You all right?
Sorry, I just don't know which ones those are. Like
Sorry, it's H, sorry, it's IJK, yes.
There's actually a fourth one for Wasaga Beach. I just didn't know if that impacted us at all. It's about
Finley's Law.
No, it's
not that one?
The first one. It's
sorry.
Something about impeding weeds or something. Yeah, invasive plants. That's the only reason I didn't include that one, but yeah.
Yeah, it's on invasive species. So because it wasn't pulled, we've already received this. But I mean, my term on the NPCA, we did a lot of this work with the province, as well as other municipalities around our area, around Niagara. What we can do is maybe we'll have staff forwarded to NPCA for maybe just some comment on where they are with this. All right, Madam Clerk, we have that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. We'll just take that as general direction, Council, if you're fine with that. All right, perfect. So I, J, and K. So there's Finley's Law and emergency room reform, innovative housing and supportive models for adults with development disabilities, and traffic calming and speeding mitigation, all to support. Any questions on any of those? We'll do them in block. Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor. Okay, on to staff remarks. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to provide a brief update on preparations for the 2026 municipal election. If I can get my, there we go. First, I'd like to remind residents that the deadline to register to vote is tomorrow, August 12th. If you haven't already confirmed your information, please visit registertovoteon.ca to ensure you're ready to participate in the upcoming election. I would also remind anyone interested in running for office that the candidate nomination period closes on August 21st, 2026 at 2:00 p.m. That's next Friday at 2 p.m. Prospective candidates can book a nomination appointment by contacting the election coordinator via email at election@portcolborne.ca or by calling 905-228-8120. As council and the public are aware, one of the most significant changes for this election is the implementation of Port Colborne's new ward structure. Beginning as of the 2026 municipal election, the city will be divided into 3 wards, with each ward represented by 2 councillors. As a result, many residents will find that the ward in which they vote has changed. To help residents understand these changes and determine which ward they are in, staff have been undertaking a comprehensive communications campaign. Information has already been made available through media releases, the municipal elections and ward boundaries web pages on our city website, interactive online ward maps, printed ward maps available at City Hall, social media campaigns, and digital displays located at both City Hall and the Vale Health and Wellness Center. Over the coming weeks, additional outreach initiatives will roll out, including updated information at the Public Library election station, ward maps distributed at farmers markets, a Did My Ward Change social media campaign, election postcards, a water bill insert, and voter information letters that will be mailed in mid-September. These voter information letters will be sent earlier than in previous election cycles and will include residents' ward information, voting options, and polling locations. This earlier mail-out will also provide additional time for electors who wish to register for vote by mail before the September 25th deadline. I'd also like to take a moment to encourage residents to consider joining our election team. We are currently recruiting election workers for a variety of paid positions, and applications are being accepted until August 31st. It's a great opportunity to get involved in the democratic process, support your community, and play a direct role in helping deliver a successful election. Information on available positions and how to apply can be found on the city's municipal elections webpage, portcolborne.ca/votes. Finally, I'd like to remind residents that city staff are happy to assist anyone who has questions about the election or who would like help confirming their ward. Staff can be reached in person at City Hall, by email at election@portcolborne.ca, or by phone at 905-835-2900. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Danny in building. Any updates?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm here tonight to give you a quick update on the implementation of our short-term rental accommodation bylaw. So in total, 666 individual operators participated in the licensing regime. 20 have withdrawn their applications for various reasons. That left 647 active applicants. 605 of those currently have full approval to operate. 42 are still working their way through the process. So that represents about 94% of the active applicants have their approval. In terms of enforcement, since the implementation of the bylaw, we've had 41 individual enforcement files. Of that 41, 21 remain active, and we've issued 21 orders associated with those files, 11 separate administrative monetary penalties totaling $15,600. On the administrative monetary penalties, I just wanted to point out that what happens with that, because the CAO had asked me a question in our meeting last week. When the penalty is issued, there's an internal work order in our software that gets initiated. That internal work order has a target date of 16 days, which mirrors the appeal period for the AMP penalty. So should the AMP penalty not be paid, or the status of the AMP penalty not be changed to appeal in that appeal period, then the tax clerk is automatically notified of that penalty, and it automatically gets applied to the taxes. So from the date of issuance to the time that would hit the roll of the offending property is 16 days. we've taken a very proactive approach to the enforcement of this bylaw, and I think we've seen the results of that, in the compliance levels that we've received. A big part of the bylaw's rollout has not only been to educate the operators, but it's also been to educate the people that live in close proximity to the operators. And in fact, many of the complaints that we get when we attend the site, we don't find a penalty, but we do take the time to sit with the complainant and walk them through what permissions are associated with the property that is operating in their neighborhood. And most often, they're very appreciative of that education, and they understand then when they see activity at that site on a weekend, they know what to be looking for in terms of what's compliant and what's not compliant. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay. Normally it's just staff remarks to us, but
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. But because it is a hot topic with the two Ward 4 councillors, Councillor Bodnar, go ahead.
So I think Councillor Agolina and myself have taken up 95% of Danny's time and other staff. And certainly I appreciate, and I know we both do, the amount of work that's gone into a relatively small number of properties that are kind of a pain in the ass to the community. Sorry, but that's kind of what it is. And working through all this, I think we've got everything kind of under control, unless some other weird thing happens. But it was a work in progress, and with all staff's help, including Danny's department, I think we've got a good handle on it. And my phone never rings again for a short-term rental complaint. I'll be really happy. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor. Anything else? Chief?
You want us to wait if you got a question?
You can wait until your time comes up. Yeah. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and council, just a little update. We've been extremely busy in emergency services over the summer period. I want to thank staff for their diligence. And then I want to thank all city staff for delivering an extremely safe Canal Days Festival. We were busy outside of the festival and busy inside the festival, but everything went really well. I just want to thank my staff over there at the fire service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Shapowski.
Yes, through your worship. So we wanted to follow up on a councillor request from last meeting regarding issues with bicycle use on the promenade. Councillor Begg, you and I have discussed some of the issues that have been observed in that area, and we've determined that installing signage asking users to dismount during that promenade section from Clarence Street to Sugarloaf Street would be the best action. So we're going to move forward with putting some signage up to be able to indicate that. We'll also be creating some educational pieces with our communications department just to educate users on trail etiquette as well. Next, I want to express our appreciation for everyone behind the scenes that made Canal Days such a great success. And all of that hard work was made just a little bit harder by all of the rain that Mother Nature brought us, which amounted to almost 80 millimeters. And with that, our local flow monitoring showed increased wet weather flows across the city. However, the Omer and Bartok catchment areas performed exceptionally well. These are the two areas that had significant wastewater rehabilitation programs targeting inflow and infiltration over the last 2 years. Our data shows that the inlet sewer to the Omer area pumping station reached a maximum of 77% full during that event, which now may seem high, but during an event like this, it actually operated very well. Before we started the rehabilitation program, this system used to operate at 100% full and surcharge the mainline pipes over 700 meters into the system, creating the need to bypass pump from the wastewater system to the storm sewer system on events with less daily rain volumes than what we received on August 2nd. We now no longer need to pump wastewater into the storm system within this area. The Clark, Union, and Arena areas are currently being targeted with the objective to receive similar results as the Omer area, and we plan to be back here in the future with similar great news. And all of this is due to council's investment into that wastewater system and the strategic targeting of the city's most problematic wastewater areas. And lastly, I wanted to make the public aware that there is a road closure planned to support the Niagara region's replacement of a wastewater force main on Kalali Street East from Welland Street to Fair Street from today, August 11th, to August 26th, with Welland Street remaining open throughout that duration. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Mr. Long?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Just wanted to mention that the mayor, some members of council, and members of senior staff will be attending the AMO conference next week in Ottawa. We have 11 delegation meetings confirmed with various provincial ministers, parliamentary assistants. While we're in Ottawa, we will also have some other sidebar conversations with other organizations, including Hydro One and other policy officials that we know. It's also important to note that Niagara College and Asahi Kasei leadership will be in Ottawa attending the conference, and will be joining the city at a couple of our delegation meetings. I also wanted to note that you've likely noticed the clean site at 709, 725 King Street. These are the properties owned by the City of Port Colborne as well as Niagara Regional Housing. I mean, if there was ever a turnkey affordable housing project, I'd say that's the one. Rest assured, city staff and Niagara Regional Housing are actively pursuing any and all capital funding opportunities. So stay tuned on that. CAO and I have also had conversations about perhaps some other alternative financing options that the city and the Housing Authority may want to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Ms. Martel.
Through July, planning staff held 2 open houses for our new official plan at the Valley Health and Wellness Center, and those were well attended. We had over the 2 days about 45 to 50 people in attendance. And this relates to our official plan, which I can now say is officially in its 90-day review period with the province. So we have circulated it to the province, all other commenting agencies, and it's available for public review on our website. We're going to continue to take comments in over the next 90 days and come back to council with public meeting later this year and likely adoption meeting early next year on the official plan. And we look forward to bringing that to council when it's ready.
Thank you. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick, maybe they're more thank yous than anything announcements, but that mid-year report that council got to see and approve today, that's just a huge thank you to the leadership team. Julie Rorson, Adam Pijot kind of brought that together, but I know council's been asking for a lot of data for a while, and they were able to even include some maps to show where the development is happening, and a lot of information went into that. So thanks. And Renee, she's left now because all the work on the hospital, but and the healthcare file, but amazing. But with Canal Days, it's a thank you to the whole team. It's a thank you to council for everybody volunteering, but Jasmine Pizzo-Graham, Greg Zwepp, Luke Rowe, Olga Lofen, those 4, that's the planning committee. And I think if anybody saw their timesheets, you'd be shocked at how many months they worked in 4 days. But just a huge thank you. And if you were out there on the Monday and as the festival was winding down before we went out to fireworks, and just the professionalism that they used to clear and work, and security and fire and everybody coming together to clear that street, and then Public Works coming in, and you could have cooked dinner on the street. It was so amazing, and it was such an amazing fireworks display we ended up with the Monday night. So just thank you to the whole team, and for those 4, we'll find a day off at some point for them, but huge thank you.
Thank you. Now on to, I don't think I forgot about it, no. Councilor's remarks. Councilor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to add on to the CAO's comments that I think staff did yet another bang-up job with Canal Days, and you know, well-deserved time off is probably in their horizons. In terms of short-term rentals, Danny. So we've had lots of discussions. We had a big meeting last week, which I think was very productive. And I'm going to, you know, sit back for a little bit and wait for all the changes that we had decided on to take place and see if they're working. So I really appreciate that. I do have a question in terms of, and just so everybody's aware, of the 650 short-term rentals, like 640 of them are on one street. So there's a lot in Ward 4. So the fact that we have very few complaints is very good for Councillor Bodnar and I. But I was wondering, not just in short-term rentals, but in bylaw as a whole, if there was an appetite with other councillors, so similar to what was in the mid-year review where you had that little update of your short-term rental and other bylaws, is it possible to get like a monthly report to councillors similar to what we get like from customer service and building, just so that council's aware of what's happening in bylaw?
Danny?
Through your worship, the answer is yes. We're happy to do that.
That was easy. And then I'm not sure what, on Saturday, whether it was a monsoon, small hurricane, or something that did a diagonal like down Pleasant Beach, Shirkston to Holloway Bay, and like disaster erupted, and I was up very early and was trying to drive down Pleasant Beach. I almost pulled over because the rain was so heavy, and then I got to the intersection of Pleasant Beach and Shirkston, and there was a massive tree across the road. So I detoured, and when I came back about 20 minutes later, the fire department was there. There was another tree that just happened to fall along the ditch line, so it wasn't impeding the road. But then on Holloway Bay, there was another tree that, like, so I don't know what happened, but my plan was when I got back in the 20 minutes was to call to have some staff out there, because I think it had just happened once when I went out there. But so I appreciate the timely response, and I don't know who, probably a private tree service came to cut up the tree, but it was cleared up quite quickly. So,
Chief?
Just on that, Councillor, yeah, we had a weather event, whipped through there, multiple trees on roadways. I want to thank operations. Mr. Szapowski was on scene as well. We had a building official there as well. Yeah, it was quite an event. Quite a few more trees than you could see, and affected some homes in the area. But everybody came together, and it was a job well done. Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Beauregard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to give kudos to staff for all their help and making Canal Days a great event again, and look forward to the next one. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baggett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one item tonight. I didn't give our Director of Public Works a heads up, so I never like giving them a heads up too much. You get spoiled. Anyways, Wallen Street, between Main and Connolly Street East. I know they dug it up to do some piping. They repaved half the laneway on the west side of Wallen Street. And that paved job is probably the worst I've seen, other than Erie Street a few years ago. And I'm hoping they're not finished there, they're gonna smooth it out. But it is really bad. You probably drive to work, but you got one of those big monster trucks, you don't feel nothing. But if you look into that and hopefully get that fixed somehow.
Mr. Shapowski.
Yes, through your worship. So I did know that, even though I drive a truck, I did notice that it did not drive well at all either. I'm assuming this is going to be their first coat that they're putting in, and then they're going to tie back and lap into it as a final asphalt piece, and then they'll start putting the shoulder back onto it. So yes, leave that with me. I do agree with you. We'll get it taken care of.
I think, Mr. Mayor, next thing could probably move to the Weir Bridge again.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I don't have to bring up the Weir Bridge again, so thank you. Want to thank Steve particularly in the storm event, the Reservoir Park, which drains towards Elm Street. That ditch was overflowing. The resident called me right on the corner at the back of the park and the back of Bartok. And Steve happened to be crossing the Jackknife Bridge, came right there and spoke with the residents. They were very complimentary. They hadn't seen the front end of their house without a pump for a while. Now we had an issue at the back end. I think that's just a stroke of luck that they don't have there, that particular family. But they were very pleased with how Steve handled it and the approach to get it. And while we were there, the pump did arrive. What didn't arrive, guys came at Bartok, checked the hole, and Steve's answered the question I was going to ask, 77%. Pump hasn't been there most of this year now, so all is good there. So thank you. You so far solved the 40-year problem. I wanted to turn to the CBO and ask him a question about his report. So the appeals, or possibly to those fines. So is it like everything else, like if somebody doesn't like the marina fee or a parking situation, they ultimately have the right to come to council? Or is there a process in appeal that is handled somewhat internally there? And you may have gone over that when you brought forward the bylaw and the process, but I just don't recall.
Danny?
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Councillor Bruno. Yeah, there's a system built into the AMPS, like the Administrative Monetary Penalty Framework, like within our bylaw. So if somebody wants to appeal, they have to notify us that they want to appeal. It goes to our screening officer, and they get to rule on it. And if the person is not satisfied with that ruling, then ultimately it can go to the hearing officer. But once the hearing officer renders their decision, that decision is final.
Secondly, I noted when you talked about the figures, Danny, of who hasn't completed the process yet, and we're already, past the civic holiday weekend. So those people, you're aware because they've put in an application and they're just going through the process of the HVAC and all that stuff. Is that fair to say?
Through your worship, yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, there's people that we have identified that were operating without a license. But for those people, we give them an order. We have to give them. So there's a notice provision that's built into the process. So when we give an order to somebody, built into the compliance period is the notice period as well, which is 5 days. So an order is deemed served after those 5 days when we send it through registered mail. But these are a lot of them are people that we have caught operating without a license, and most of them, we don't even actually get to the order. As soon as we identify to them that an order is coming and there may be fines, we see the application come in.
I guess where I was going with this is the license is for a calendar year?
Yes, that is correct.
So those that are caught up in coming forward with compliance, like they would pay now a full fee just to get to January, or December 31st.
Yes, that is correct.
And that was like 20 odd still, was it? I forget your number.
It's 42.
Okay.
I'm not going to say all of those are a result of enforcement. Some of them might have just been people that came forward, over time. But yeah, we didn't prorate the licensing fee because the amount of work that goes into each license, regardless of what time of year it is, that's what that fee is paying for.
I guess I was just concerned if you have that many that applied, it sounded like they wanted to comply and join and obey the rules. But we really don't know if they've actually had people there in this period. Like, I'm trying to figure out why somebody would pay that licensing fee in August, and there's 40 of them, figuring they're going to get that much business till December 31st.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speculate along with you. I mean, it's tough for us, what we have available to us is to go on to Airbnb and try and, identify where these listings are, and we're being very creative about finding them. But what we've also discovered is a lot of people, they don't want to, they've stopped renting because they didn't want to participate in our bylaw,
right.
But they didn't take their listing down because they don't want to lose their status with Airbnb. In case they do decide that someday again they want to, rejoin, right? So it's with those people, what we try to influence them to do is just mark their unit as not available anymore. They can keep their listing up so that they can maintain their status, but they have to mark. We have to see that they've marked that it's not available for rent.
So they're not. So otherwise, they're non-compliant and subject to the fine if they don't put the not available.
Yes.
So you've got a number to be keeping an eye on stuff every weekend, every Friday.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're being very proactive with the properties that we know have a history. Some of them are getting to know our staff very well, and we're there 2-3 times on the weekend just to communicate with the people that are renting so that they understand what their obligations as renters are, educating people on the noise bylaw and, other bylaws at every opportunity that we get. So, this bylaw has really presented us with a really unique opportunity to, whether it be Chief Double's team or the bylaw building team, that's 650 opportunities to educate people on everything from fire safety to life safety in their houses, maintenance of their HVAC system. So I think it's been, and we've taken that approach that we use every opportunity to educate people. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing the compliance at the level that we're seeing it, because we've taken that very proactive approach.
Just one last question, if I could. So now that we've gone through some of the growing pains in that, if I'm a short-term rental, I probably want to be ready if I'm going to pay my fee for next year as early as possible to get anybody who even wants to come in January. So is there a way you're managing not just a tornado or, of applications coming in for April 15th to be ready for May 1st? Is there an issue with that, or is there a proactive way you're trying to get them to come in at a more manageable speed?
Through your worship, we're still looking at that. The initial, we really just got through that initial intake a few weeks ago. So working along with Charlotte's team and the whole, everybody involved with the administration of the bylaw, we're now turning our attention to what that renewal process will look like. There are some amendments to the bylaw that we're going to have to make. There was some provincial legislation that came into effect earlier this year that changes some things. So, we're going to use that opportunity to take all of our lessons learned. We've been tracking it throughout, as we stood up the bylaw, where there's maybe some redundancy in the bylaw, where there's pinch points unnecessary, and we're going to come together as a team and, make some amendments to the bylaw, and at the same time talk about what that renewal process looks like and how we can make sure that we can just roll it out in a very efficient manner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. To Steve, first of all, right across from our office on Elm Street, 492 Elm. Every time it rains, doesn't have to be substantial, but when it rains, it's a lake that develops just in front of the house, and sometimes it almost comes across the road. Have we looked at that at all? Do you know if any complaints have been in about it? Because it happens often.
Through you, your worship. So I believe there's a section on Elm Street that doesn't have formal storm sewers, and it's in that general area. So what I'll do is I'll take that back to the office and we'll see exactly where that lies and just take that into consideration. I believe there are a couple of catch basins there, but they connect to each other and act as a spot for the like stormwater to dissipate rather than actually bringing it to an outlet. So I have a feeling that's what's happening in that area, but let me double check and I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks. Today, I drive by it every day, and today I noticed at the daycare that we're building, coming home this afternoon. So the fences are up, the cement floor and plumbing is in. There's nobody working. Is there an issue? And how far behind are they? Anybody?
Through you, your worship. So I actually spoke to Nikon today, to their project lead and also to their president there. They do have a framer that's hired, ready to go. We have a revised calendar schedule from them. It is going to go out further than what was projected, but we are aiming to get this completed by the end of the year. The framing should take place imminently. I'm waiting for a phone call tomorrow to let me know that 100% they're coming in within the next week. And once they're in, they'll be doing the exterior framing, moving on to the interior, and trusses will be ordered to put those on top. And they're pretty confident that the exterior framing and interior framing will move fairly quickly.
Okay. Third thing, had an out-of-town guest stay over on fireworks night on the Monday, and when we were leaving town, commented to me they couldn't believe how clean the town was. And they said if you were to drive through here after an event like you just had and looked at the city, they literally couldn't believe that there was no garbage anywhere, and thought, how many cities could actually clean up that quick after an event like that, and with the rain and everything like that. And I started to look around and it was like, never really noticed it, but yeah, there's no garbage. So kudos to all staff who was part of that cleaning up, because it was amazing when he drew the attention to it for me. So, and as far as the warning lights go that I ask you about all the time, remember we said we'll get there? I think we got there. They all seem to be working now, so keep your fingers crossed. That's all. Thanks.
Councillor Danch.
Through you, and I'm not sure I'm going with this one, building permits. There was an apartment building listed on and it's substantial money. And I just wondered where this apartment, because I look at them all the time, and single family dwelling and all that stuff, but there's an apartment building, but it doesn't say where it's going. I just wonder if maybe that's Gary's project, but we don't have a permit on that one yet, do we?
Through you, your worship, any more details, Councillor?
Sorry?
Sorry, any more details? Address or?
No, it doesn't give that. It just gives a apartment building and it gives a building fee amount. But it's like we used to get that side, and then we had a second page that would go through and tell us. I don't see, this thing hasn't been working well. I've been to see Anthony two times, and I'm going back again tomorrow. But I just wondered, it's like $140,000 fee. So where's it going?
I'll go to planning.
Through the mayor, I might be able to answer some of this, but I might need to pull in Danny as well. We did receive building permit applications for 2 substantial properties, one for about 10 units and I think one for about 26 units this month. from a planning perspective, we have not yet approved them yet because there are some zoning matters we need to look into. So I don't know if those are, one of those might be the ones you're questioning, or if there's something else, but.
Well, it was listed as the building permits for the month, showing, single-family dwelling, new water line, and then it showed an apartment building. It was 140 grand, so I just wondered.
Yeah, there would have been 2 building permit applications for apartment buildings that came in, but we haven't approved those yet. There's some further due diligence we need to do.
All right, well, I can see a couple of yous looking into this, so maybe we'll get some answers tomorrow. That's fine. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hoyle.
First off, thank you for staff for always answering all my questions before we come here, so I get all my questions and answers, everything resolved before I don't have to say anything in front. Secondly, thanks to all staff that helped out for Canal Days. I think it was great. Special thanks goes out to Cheyenne, who I happened to be in the area with my dog. They set off a test fireworks. One boom, my dog was gone, running down the street, and Cheyenne captured her and brought her back. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Before I go to Councillor Bodner, Councillor Danch, it's 360 Clally Street East, new apartments, 3-story, 24 units. Project value is $4 million. So that would,
on that
second, that's on page 2. So page 1 gives you the values of the permits. Second page gives you the value of the project.
Okay, thank you.
If you're having trouble, that's probably because maybe the page wasn't. Exchange it. I'm sure they've got more in the IT department for you. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to acknowledge staff's great work at Canal Days. I don't know if there's ever a way, the CAO mentioned 4 people that are kind of the backbone of that committee. They probably haven't enjoyed Canal Days forever. It'd be nice to give them a Canal Days off, but I'd be afraid of what might happen. But anyways, just throwing that out there for a thought. Through you to Steve. Steve, you were talking about bicycles on the promenade there. Does that include motorized scooters?
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, currently motorized scooters are not allowed.
So any signage that would go up would specifically say motorized scooters, or they're supposed to walk them. There was something happened at Canal Days right in front of where we were sitting with a very young girl on a motorized scooter, full out as fast as she could go, in between the people, and it lasted for a long, long time. And obviously she knew what she was doing. She didn't hit anybody, but it sure as heck made some people jump. So just throwing that out there. Thanks.
So just through you, Your Worship, what we'll be doing is our roads division is currently working with our communications team to create a couple signs that will be at the entrance and exits of the promenade. And it'll focus on trail etiquette. So it'll talk about things like that, dismounting from the bike, not jumping from the bridges or the railings, different items like that, just to show what the expectation is within that area. So hopefully those signs will help out a little bit in the area.
That's all, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Are there any notices of motion? Okay, on to bylaws. So I'm going to divide the bylaws in 2, council, because there are conflicts with one item. So bylaw 20.1 has Councillor Bruno, Beauregard, and Elliott all declared a conflict on this item. If I could have Councillors Danch and Hoyle move that one. Any questions on that bylaw? Again, Bruno, Beauregard, and Elliott all have conflicts. No questions. All in favor? That's carried. And the next is bylaws 20.2 through to 20.9. If I have Councillors Elliott and Bruno move those. Any questions on any of those bylaws? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, council, good job tonight. I think we got over a huge hurdle with our healthcare plan. Again, as I've said to a lot of people, it's part of the whole puzzle, and those pieces are falling into place really quick and very well. And kudos to staff on this. So thank you for those that attended tonight. Thank you for those watching online. And we are now